So we're just going to wait a second for the participants to all get logged in.
Sure.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the League of Women Voters of the Lacrosse Area Evening with Mayor Reynolds. I'm Robin Schmidt, President of the League of Women Voters of the Lacrosse Area, and I want to thank Mayor Reynolds for joining us tonight. When we started this fall's program year, we wanted to provide you with some different types of programs and opportunities to engage with the League on issues that matter to you. We've initiated lunch and learn follow-up small group discussions, and tonight we're bringing Mayor Reynolds back to have an evening conversation with us about his reflections on 2021 and opportunities and priorities for 2022. As you may recall, Mayor Reynolds was one of our panelists this fall addressing the homelessness issues in the Crosse area, an issue that he's committed to and passionate about. We realize, however, that homelessness is just one of many issues that are critical to our community and our members. So tonight, we welcome back Mayor Reynolds to spend more time with us. While we may not be able to bring you the fireside in a fireside chat, we hope that you find this format welcoming and cozy. As I previously stated, the mayor will have time to share with us his reflections and his aspirations. And I ask you to type in your questions that you'd like to ask the mayor using the question box at the bottom of your screen. Before we start though, I'd like to ask you to provide us with some feedback about yourselves so the mayor has a better understanding of his audience. So I'm going to launch a very short poll and tell us a little bit about yourselves by answering the two questions, and then we'll turn it over to the mayor. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. And if you could just answer the two questions there, that would be awesome. And hopefully I'll know how to show the poll results. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes. All right, I'm going to end the poll and see if I can share the results. I think I can. So Mayor Reynolds, we asked people to tell us about themselves. It looks like we have about 48% that are working, 43% that are retired, and 9% that are other. And then we asked people to tell us where they live. So 78% of our audience lives in the city of Lacrosse, 17% lives outside the city of Lacrosse and in Lacrosse County, and 4% live outside of Lacrosse County. So that might give you some information on how to address your remarks and your thoughts and answer questions. So right now I'd like to introduce Mayor Mitch Reynolds, who was elected in April of 2021 to serve as mayor of the city of Lacrosse. This is the first public office Mitch has held. He's previously worked as an operations manager at a sustainable design and manufacturing firm, and as a news director at a Lacrosse studio at a multi-state Midwest media company. Mitch and his wife Anna have lived in Lacrosse since they both began attending UW Lacrosse in 1994. Their children, Rowan and Olivia, also call Lacrosse home. Mitch has a degree in history from UW Lacrosse and earned a Master's of Business Administration at Viterbo University. So Mayor Reynolds, I turn it over to you to give us some thoughts on your insights for last year and aspirations for next year, and then maybe do 15-20 minutes on each, and then we'll have questions and have conversation after that.
Well, thank you, Robin. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the League for allowing me to be here tonight to address you. As it was interesting being part of the MLK Day of celebration here in Lacrosse community yesterday. One of the repeated themes that came up through various different things that I was at was the attempt to restrict voting rights throughout the United States. And so I want to express my appreciation for what the league does to continually push for access for voting for all Americans, and how, I mean, such a significant, it is the essential part of who we are, frankly. And I just want to just express my appreciation for what you do and what you continually strive for and push for, so that we can all have access to equal voting rights. I was very disappointed, and I can't remember what county the judge was in, but banning the use of ballot boxes in the state of Wisconsin. This circuit court judge decision that just came down recently banned the use of ballot or drop boxes in the state of Wisconsin for absentee ballots. I had intended to actually expand the use of absentee ballot drop boxes in the city of Lacrosse. And so I was very frustrated with that decision, because now we're at this limbo stage that's not going to be solved by the time our spring primary comes around. But that, to me, is such an essential part of making sure that we have, absentee ballots have become such an essential part of voting here in the state of Wisconsin. They really have. And providing the ability for people to have an easy way to drop off those ballots seems pretty essential. And because we have the way that our city is oriented in such a north-south way, it's great that we have a absentee ballot drop-off box at City Hall that's monitored 24 hours a day, but I kind of would like to stretch that out a little bit so that we could almost walk to each, ballot drop box in the city. And it would really only take 2 more, and then we would be there. But for right now, that is unfortunately impossible in the state of Wisconsin. So that's incredibly frustrating to me. So among the frustrations that I have to express tonight, and that's not 2021, that was actually in 2022, but among the frustrations I've expressed tonight will be that one, that we are continually fighting this battle to have greater voter access for our citizens. It just seems like such a simple thing. Why would we not want more folks to vote in our elections? It seems like that would be the most essential thing that we do as a democracy, is to ensure that we provide the greatest access possible for people to vote. So anyway, I also want to mention that although this is called a fireside chat, everybody knows that brings to mind the legacy of FDR, and I will just acknowledge that I am no FDR. So this is fireside chat to the extent that I can have fireside chat, but I am absolutely not that giant of a human being in our American history. So I will openly acknowledge that. I honestly thought the fireside chat was a working title, and that was not something that you would actually call it. But I'm fine. Just know, everyone who's listening, that I have no illusions that I am at that level. So let me just talk about 2021 for just a few minutes, because there are a lot of things that, again, I felt that there was extraordinary accomplishments that I can point to in 2021, and I was just thrilled to be a part of seeing some things come to completion, and some projects in the city begin, and some initiatives take hold in our city. And among the things that I was incredibly excited to begin was this push towards adding it's really one of the most important things that I can see in terms of our community and what we need to achieve in our community, and that's adding housing in our community. And I've talked about this over and over again. Is affordable housing is one thing, but housing in general is something that we need in our community. And affordable housing certainly is one of them, and a lot of different things that we were able to achieve involved affordable housing, and that includes the beginning of a development project in the area of 4th and Jackson across from City Brewery, which will have some housing units that are dedicated for those who are homeless or at or near homelessness. And very excited about that. It is a mixed market development, so there is also market level types of housing there. And then we have all sorts of different housing developments that are, sprouting up all over Lacrosse, either in the planning or development or construction phase. And that is incredibly exciting and something that I'm very, very pleased about. And I can't say enough about the staff within the city of Lacrosse government who have made this something that is possible for us to achieve. I delivered a State of the City address the other night, the city council meeting, and we talked about, and I talked about some of the things that I was very, very excited about, and this was definitely one of them. And once I started counting up all of the different the numbers of homes that we had in various stages, either planning, development, or construction, the number came to 1,500 new homes for the city of Lacrosse. 1,500. And that's a remarkable number. And a lot of the things we started in the last year, the River Point district, we finally got the fill project done, and we're finally going to turn dirt this year on actual buildings there. There's been discussion about that former Kmart property, and I feel really confident about coming to a development agreement on that in the coming months. And the Fifth Ward residents in the north side, and all the hundreds of different homes, but it's 1,500 homes. Now think about this. There are 22,000 plus or minus homes or residences or households, or however you want to describe it, in the city of Lacrosse. So unless I'm mistaken, if I'm doing the math right, that's like a 7.5% increase, or let's call it 7% increase in the number of homes in the city of Lacrosse. And that's a remarkable surge. And that's the kind of thing that checks all kinds of boxes. First of all, it provides quality homes for people to live in here in the city, which, to be frank, are lacking at times. But it also creates a market solution for what we see over and over again is a lack of housing for individuals who are either at homelessness or at the brink of homelessness. Because the more that we help mitigate the overwhelming demand of housing and with an additional supply, the more that we can increase the availability of housing for people who are simply unhoused at this point. So I'm really excited about that, and that's one of the things that I'm just thrilled about. A lot of other things, but I do want to say that there are some things that, and we talked about, when I was preparing for discussion for tonight, I was looking back at what was expected. I was expected to talk about disappointments, and I hate talking about disappointments because it just means that I didn't quite get to where I wanted to get, and it's really, frankly, discouraging for me to admit that we are still struggling with it at a crisis point and at a historical level of homelessness in the city of Lacrosse. And I'm constantly at work at this, and I'm constantly trying to understand how we can best fill needs and do it on a long-term basis and a lasting basis here within the city. And so I'm very disappointed that we're still at this point where we're seeing historic levels of homelessness, and it really is. I was at a presentation at one of the committees that I chair. I was at there was a presentation that was being done by one of our great organizations that works within our area, Cap, who are just fantastic at helping folks find homes, getting people into homes, doing all the things that I don't even know what they do, but it's a lot of great stuff. And Kim Cable and everybody knows Kim Cable here, but Kim Cable was doing this presentation, and she was talking about the level of unsheltered individuals within our community. And we talked about the number of folks that are, everybody knows that we have individuals who are, the city is providing, has paid for services and housing for individuals at the Econo Lodge on the north side of Lacrosse. We have individuals in the shelters at the Salvation Army and Catholic Charities. We have individuals that are on vouchers at hotels. We have individuals and families, and then some other places. And then, there's still some, we still have people that they have the sleeping bags and they're sleeping in the parking ramps. And I think the total, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the total came to 219 individuals. So we consider those, I think, again, I'm not the expert at this, but I believe we consider those to be unsheltered individuals here in the city. And Kim, her comment was, this is 80 to 90 more individuals than we have ever seen in the city since she's been doing this. And that's been like 16, 17 years, something like that. And that is, I consider that a personal failure on my part and something I need to fix. And I'm dedicated to doing that. I believe that we have a responsibility, a moral obligation to serve those who are the most vulnerable in our society. And I don't think we can identify any individuals who are any more vulnerable than those who lack homes and lack appropriate shelter. So, that work will continue into 2022. But when I look back at 2021, I keep looking at the things that maybe we could have done differently, or things we could have improved, or processes that we could make better in the coming year. And they're just lessons learned, basically. So I look forward to making some strides this year and trying to get everybody engaged to try to systemically, we went down this road a few years ago, identifying specific populations and ending homelessness for those specific populations within the city of Lacrosse. And my goal, our goal as a city, is to reach that point of a really functional zero for homelessness. I just think that really, when you think about it, it's 219 individuals in a city of 50,000. It's a tiny little amount of human beings. But it says a lot about our community in the way that we address that challenge. And that's how I'm facing it. I'm facing it as if it's a moral imperative for our community to address this challenge. So that and there were a number of other things in 2021. It was more, and there were things that I was surprised by. I was surprised by a lot. When the first day on the job, I get to my office. There's a contract on my desk to sign for the Lacrosse Center, and it's for a gun show at the Lacrosse Center. And I'm a contract nerd, so I look through the contract and I'm thinking, this is a disaster for the city. Why are we allowing this? And so I just said no. And that was a huge challenge that presented itself right away, that I didn't see coming, but I had to deal with for like 3 months. And that's the kind of thing that I was a little bit taken aback by, how these things that I can conceive of them being challenges, but I really honestly didn't see them coming. So that was one of them. And it did lead to, and really, which was great, because every single challenge gives us an opportunity to overcome that challenge and become better. And I feel like that's what we did with developing better policies for weapons within the city of Lacrosse. So that was great, and that was a good opportunity for me to really learn that. I was also disappointed in I was disappointed that we were not able to move as quickly as I wanted to. And we received federal stimulus funding in, I think it was May, June, late May, early June, I can't remember. But we received the funding, and we realized that you know, we needed to come up with a process for distributing the funding. And you know, looking at the original rules from the Treasury Department, it was clear that we could start distributing the funding right away to some of our local organizations that were having an immediate impact on our community. And my thought was, okay, let's get 10% of that out right away, and let's start helping these organizations help our community, ground level, street level. Let's find out what they need, how we can help them. And my thought was, let's start writing checks. But that's not how government works. And as you pointed out, I think, Robin, I think you said in the introduction, this is my first job in government at all. Certainly my first public office. And so I know, after being a news director and being a reporter and journalist in general, I understand how government works, but until you're in the midst of it and you can't believe that it's taking 6 months to do something that's relatively simple, it's not really real. And then you're in the midst of it, you're like, how are we still sitting on this money? We still don't have a process. What's going on? And it was something along those lines. And so we're still at this point, we're on the verge of reviewing, or we're finishing our review of the applications. And we had applications for $10 million worth of funding, and we'll be able to distribute about 2 million of that. So there's a great need out there that's been expressed by some of our private service organizations, and we're seeking to fill that need. Not nearly as quickly as I wanted to, but you know, again, it is what it is. I have to deal with the universe that I'm in. Likewise, when I started talking about the homeless services coordinator that I wanted to install within the city of Lacrosse to help coordinate our response in a systemic way to homelessness throughout the city, my thought was, okay, let's have the city take the role of being the center of organizing the response, again, in that systemic way. And my thought was, all right, let's get this job out there. Let's hire somebody. Let's get going. And I think that process started at the beginning of June, and we hired somebody at the end of November. And again, I just wasn't used to that pace, and it took way longer than I thought it would take. However, just a tremendous number of different things to build off of from 2021, not only within, again, I talked about housing, and that was fantastic. I mean, when you look at River Point District and the possibilities there, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, Fifth Ward residences, able to bring that to the finish line so they could break ground, and we'll be building things, and you'll see things going up there this coming year, and that's fantastic. I mean, again, another, I don't know, 300 homes or something like that. And then former Kmart site that will maybe see some movement of dirt this year, maybe Bridgeview Plaza, but a bunch of different little pockets of things around the city. So very exciting parts about that. And then also looking at the progress we made at having the police department really take a look at policing within our community. And it was something that, you know, I didn't start that process. We have some incredible new leadership within the City of Lacrosse Police Department. And they looked at ways that our community resource unit is one of them, where it's just an incredibly unique partnership between the City of Lacrosse Police Department and the County Health Department to have a dual response to issues where it's clear that someone is facing a mental health crisis, and it could take more than a police response, or more than a mental health professional response. So we combine them to respond together. And it is such an exciting new development in policing within our community that has been embraced by those that are on that unit, and we're looking to expand that. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about, you know, this new approach towards juveniles. We have this Lightest Touch program that really focuses on finding ways to help young people succeed in our community, like getting them connected with the resources they need to succeed, as opposed to writing them tickets, getting them from a judge, getting the juvenile justice system, which it inevitably leads to, you know, in some way, for some of them, can inevitably lead to incarceration. And that's the last thing we need. We need less of that within the United States of America. You know, with our ridiculously high incarceration rates throughout the United States, and especially in the state of Wisconsin, always disproportionately higher for African Americans. The last thing we need is to be dumping tickets on 12-year-olds. So I applaud the City of Lacrosse Police Department for taking some extraordinary initiatives. Not only that, but in our, you know, looking at some stats today about how the use of force from the police department is down because of their new levels of training, all sorts of things. They're just incredibly exciting and new developments within our city. So just it's absolutely remarkable. Yeah, very pleased by all of that. I'm thrilled overall, and you know, when I started creating a list of things that I was just excited to be moving forward with how we're looking at planning for the future with our climate action plan. The first meeting, the kickoff meeting for the climate action plan was today, and the concepts behind that are pretty basic. You know, we know we have a goal of net zero by 2050, right? But how do we get there? We got to have a plan, and we've been chipping away at it in a number of different ways. And the most exciting public works project and I keep talking about this because I can't get enough of it, but our wastewater treatment plant is going through some amazing upgrades, and part of that is being paid for because of the sewer agreement that Onalaska and the City of Lacrosse finally reached, which is very exciting. I know nobody pays attention to that stuff, but it's really exciting to me because, you know, it sat on the table for about 7 or 8 years, and we finally came to an agreement because Mayor Smith and I and Onalaska are just like, let's just get this done. What are we doing? Why are we fighting over this? And that was fantastic. But that is helping to pay for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, which is the most remarkable project. And I know that it sounds silly because it's really just who cares? It's the sewage system, right? But this, I mean, when you think about it, it's, again, one of the biggest public works projects ever within the City of Lacrosse. And we're going to be upgrading the wastewater treatment plant to the extent that we're going to be using the gas that comes from the digested waste to power the plant itself, which takes all of that off the grid. All of it off the grid. That's all sustainable energy. That all goes from one of the biggest energy users within the City of Lacrosse to a net zero. So we're going to do that. And then that plant is also going to be powering our entire municipal service garage area on Isle of Plume. All of it. Which also means it's going to be charging our new electric buses. And it's, you know, this is one of the most remarkable projects right now that's going on within the state of Wisconsin. And, you know, when people hear about it, what? And we're really excited to be partnering with XL Energy and creating a microgrid for the island. And it's not only sustainable, but it's also, we're creating in some ways like a community battery of sorts. So in a some sort of natural disaster situation, whatever, we have an entirely isolated, self-reliant, self-sustained microgrid on Isle of Plume in that type of situation. So it's absolutely stunning. And I pinch myself when I think that, you know, I got to be one of the guys that was at the groundbreaking for that. You know, I'm thrilled to have, first of all, it's amazing to be the mayor of a city with such an innovative, creative, and remarkable staff that can come up with ideas like this. And I can't thank those folks enough for the work that they do. So I'm super thrilled by that. So yeah, like I was saying, the climate action plan, you know, the comprehensive plan we're starting, the downtown Vision 2040 plan that was completed last year, the new Safe Routes to School plan, all these comprehensive plans that give us a guide for the future of how we can be more resilient, more sustainable, more equitable. All of these things currently in the works or will be in the works through the coming year. And it's just it's a tremendous time to be in the city and looking ahead to what we can accomplish within our city here. So you know, when I look ahead at what do I want to achieve for 2022, I mean, I look at housing numbers, housing, you know, housing starts, housing completions. I would love by, you know, if I look out over a mayoral term, so it's 4 years, right? So I've been in office for what, 8 months, 9 months, something like that. If I look over 4 years, I was thinking when I got to office, I'm like, I want to start 1,000 homes. I want to add 5% to the home population. Well, apparently I was shooting a little low. So I have to reevaluate my my housing, what I'd like to achieve in terms of housing. But I would also, you know, one of the things that what I'd like to do is it's not just put housing, but make sure that the access to housing is equitable for our community. And I mentioned an MLK Day yesterday, and I was at a couple of events at Viterbo, and one of them was a panel discussion about the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And one of the things that was discussed was how, or among the things that were talked about were how some of the issues that Martin Luther King Jr. was addressing in the 1960s are things that still plague us today. And so not only housing, but equity to housing, or equitable access to housing, I guess, is really something that we struggle with. And I've been super pleased by our city council, especially our new city council members who have really launched themselves into these concepts of providing more equity in our community, and really pushing to make sure that we have a way to ensure that those who are, say, renting have legal representation to make sure that they're not wrongfully evicted from their homes. And you know, we've got plenty of stories of individuals and who have, or landlords who have not necessarily always acted terribly well, and this can help fix that process through adding resources to tenant resources, tenant legal resources. One of the things that the city had started in 2020, we established an equity or a racial equity team. And there was direction, but it was not great direction. And so we expanded the team, and we're creating a process to develop an equity action plan for the city of Lacrosse. And I'm very excited about that. And my goal is to actually have that complete this year. So it's going to take a lot of work, but I believe that we can get there. And yeah, we'll see. And, you know, it's a tremendous amount of evaluating of ordinances, looking at our processes, understanding access, looking at all. It's not just racial equity, but equity for gender equities, socioeconomic equity, like all sorts of things that we need to look at to make sure that we're addressing all of them. And that's hard work. And we have, at this point, we have an internal team of, I want to say it's 14 employees that are engaged in our team to evaluate all of our our own city processes within City Hall, but throughout the city as well. What are we doing as a community to either foster equity or prevent it? And that's what they're looking at right now. So I don't know. I didn't have a ton of direction in where I was going with all these comments. So I don't know if there's anything that I can continue to talk about all the different wonderful things that we can continue to do within the city of Lacrosse, but I also would really like to hear questions and answer questions from people who are in attendance.
Well, thank you, and I think not having a lot of direction in some ways is good, because it lets you really focus on the things that you really want to focus on. And I appreciate hearing what you had to say. We don't always hear some of these things, so it's great to be able to hear them from you. We have some questions coming in. I had a question, and it's kind of multi-phase, but the crux of it is that I think of Lacrosse as not just the city, but as a broader community. So that what happens in the city affects the neighboring areas, what happens in the neighboring communities affects the city. So my question is, what role, or what's the mechanism to pull entities together throughout the community to try to tackle some broader issues? I'm thinking, for example, could be water quality. In the rural areas, there's significant, groundwater quality problems from agricultural compounds. You've got PFAS contamination. You've got climate change and flooding and things like that. And what happens somewhere, it's not like political boundaries define the problem. The problem flows through the environment, it doesn't stop at political boundaries. The other issue that I was thinking of was relating what I call getting us to a post-pandemic state. I honestly am not an optimist that we'll ever be in a post-pandemic state, but there are issues that we're seeing arise, like with the workforce, where you have people who need they need affordable job, living wages. They need daycare. There's other obstacles that are keeping people from fully filling the needs that the community has for jobs. So these are just little examples. The overarching thing is, what's the mechanism to work with other leaders to try to tackle issues on a broader scale, not just within the city? Or is that maybe not even your role as mayor? I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
No, it absolutely is my role. No, there's no question. I think that is one of the things that I've been surprised at. Probably one of the things that I've been most surprised at is how easy it was to rebuild some relationships that were not so great between the city and the county, or the city and the city of Unalaska, or the city and the town of Campbell, or any of those things. And my goal is to make sure that we all understand that we're in this together. Lacrosse is, let's be honest, it's the regional economic engine, but we all depend on each other. And I mean, the most important thing is that we're all each other's neighbors. We're all each other's friends, and we go to each other's hockey games and football games, and we go to grandma's house in the town of Shelby, right? So it's not like when somebody has a water problem in the town of Campbell, I'm just like, I don't care, whatever. No, because Ruthie on the north side and her sister Isabel is in the town of Campbell. So we have to deal with that, and that's absolutely the necessity. It's for the mayor of the city of Lacrosse to make sure that we're working in cooperation and collaboration with regional partners, our regional municipal partners, but other partners as well. And so I am absolutely devoted to that concept. And one of the things that when Mayor Smith and I got together on the Unalaska Sewer Agreement, which is it's not titillating in any kind of way, but it was incredibly important for our two communities. one of the things that we understood was that that was a very important concept, is that we are partners, we're neighbors, we have to agree to things, and we have to make concessions, and we have to understand that we have mutual interests that we can meet by coming to an agreement. So that is absolutely the role of the mayor of the city of Lacrosse, and the role of the leaders of our other municipalities as well. Now, we do have the Lacrosse Area Planning Commission, which meets every couple months or whatever, and we do have we mostly it's some transportation things that we meet about, and all the leaders of the municipalities are part of that. So there's no cooperation there, and I'd like to advance that. I'd like to continue the different things that we can do as regional partners. One of the things that our fire chief in the city of Lacrosse, when I came to office, said, look, I want to look into helping provide some management support for the Holman Area Fire Department, because they're struggling, and we can help, and we can save lives. And, it's something we haven't done, but okay. I said, let's do it. And we're at the beginning phases of it, but the understanding that we can help our region by cooperating in that very simple way, that emergency response way, was incredibly compelling, and something that I think that we can draw from in many other ways. And whether maybe that's a regional emergency response, I mean, that's who knows if that can happen, but that, or transit, or a charging system network for as we're going to see electric cars everywhere within 10 years. How can we cooperate in those kinds of ways? I think that's incredibly important. When it comes to the clean water rural areas, one of the things that Lacrosse has that isn't necessarily something that is situated in some of our neighbor areas is we have I would say a higher level of professionalism. We have some individuals that are in highly trained professionals in water quality and engineering, and a lot of things that folks don't necessarily have in some smaller municipalities. And so the sharing of knowledge is something that I think we can surrounding municipalities can gain from us, and we can all get stronger together in that way. I mean, it sounds like pie in the sky stuff, and I understand that, but it does also feel like it's realistic and achievable. I do want to address the post-pandemic comments. I do believe it is. I'm not a scientist, I don't know, but I do believe at some point a pandemic turns into endemic, and we get there and then we move on. But we do have things to pick up. We do have some wounds to heal, and we do have some progress that we have to make. And you mentioned childcare, and that's one of the most important things. And that's why I have people in our planning department who are working on that. We're putting together some, the parenting place has, I think they've got a proposal, and I'm not privy to all the details, but they've got a proposal for greatly expanding our childcare accessibility for here within the city. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like. That's one of the greatest challenges that we face, frankly, is the availability of childcare in terms of our workforce. That is going to be something that is going to be a challenge for us for a long time to come, is finding the individuals that can be part of our workforce. We're in as this region, not the city of Lacrosse, but this entire region, we're in a competition with similar regions throughout the United States for I don't say diminishing, but at least a stagnant workforce availability level. And so we have to be hyper competitive to attract individuals to come here to help support our workforce. I don't mean it's not like a labor camp or anything, but we do, our vitality in a lot of ways is based on certainly our entrepreneurship and our medical facilities and our educational facilities, but also the quality of our workforce. The numbers, the education level, the willingness, the individuals, all of that is essential. And we're in that competition to secure that workforce. And part of winning that competition, it sounds so Machiavellian, but part of winning that competition is about making sure that we have accessible childcare for the individuals who want to come here, because that's a huge thing. They're, they love, right? They love the outdoor spaces. They love the hiking trails. They love the river. They love all of the environment that we have to offer. And it's amazing. And that's wonderful. And we love the downtown experience of the city of Lacrosse and all of the, apple farms and breweries and whatever we have to offer. They love all of that. When it comes down to it, the folks with children need childcare. And we have to find ways to innovative ways to supply that. And there's some great ideas out there, and I'm very hopeful. And I think that part of what I'm hopeful about the utilization or the wise utilization of our ARPA federal stimulus funding is that we'll be able to find some really good solutions to help bridge that childcare gap in our community.
Awesome. Thank you. So, so the next question I want to pose is more local focused. It's a question about that the school district is considering a building plan for the future, and how will that building plan impact the city and the neighborhoods, and what should the city's priorities be regarding our approach to our school facilities?
That's a tough one. I understand where the school district is at. They've been in this situation for the last 20 years where they have a decreasing population of students, but they have similar numbers of aging buildings, really, really old buildings in some cases, and a diminishing amount of dollars to maintain those buildings. So I get where they're coming from in wanting to consolidate and decrease the number of buildings, and I get it. I really do. I'm at that point where I'm still trying to identify what would be the benefit overall to our neighborhoods and our city if we're following through with the growth plan of the school district. So I'm not quite there yet. The value for me, for the city of Lacrosse and the schools and the number of school buildings we have, is the immediate access that people have to their schools, right? For the neighborhood sense, they can, they can get to them immediately. I don't know how else to put that. They can walk to them, they can bike to them. And I mean, some cases, yeah, we got a couple outlying elementary schools that were built a number of years ago, but the concept was that we needed to provide school buildings in those areas, and they're not necessarily walkable or bikeable in any kind of way, but we do have a number of schools that are neighborhood schools, and whether it be the middle schools or elementary schools, and in most cases our high schools are very much the same way. There's a lot of access, and I love that, and I think that's what there's a lot of comparisons that have been made between the city of Lacrosse and what other communities do. And I get that. That makes sense. Like, what do comparable communities do? And I don't know if we're the community that has one big high school and where everybody's got to drive to it. I don't know if we're that community. I don't know if we're the community that we're all the kids that go to the high school got to drive there or get dropped off by a bus or the parents. I don't know if we're that community necessarily. I'm driving down Losey Boulevard in the morning and hitting the crosswalk of Green Bay and seeing high school student after high school student cross the street and head to Central High School. I kind of think that's a value, and that's something that we should cherish. And I don't know if I have that right, but and my kids went to an elementary school here in Lacrosse and walked to school every day. And I'm trying to remind myself not to get caught up in this sense that everything should be the same way they think they've always been, and that we should maybe progress and maybe change our school system and change our building structure and all of that. But I struggle to let go of this concept that our neighborhood schools, our small neighborhood schools, old, small, drafty neighborhood schools, are something that also are valuable to our community, just the way they are. So I struggle to let go of that. And I don't know, I still need some convincing, and I'm still open to the concepts that have come from the Lacrosse School District. I know that whatever happens, we plan on just, making sure that our city is able to roll with it, whatever they do, I guess. But I'm a little reticent to be terribly supportive at this point. Doesn't mean I won't. It just means I'm not there yet.
Excellent. Thank you for your honesty with that. That's a good description. There's another question about roads and roundabouts. And the question is, like, how do people who are living in areas where there's a lot of construction, like what's their pathway for trying to figure out? I think it's part of communications, part of inconvenience, part of logistics. Like if somebody is in an area where there is construction and it's hard to get in and out, how do they communicate that to the city? How do they get information back from the city on that? Is there a network there that they can tap into, or resources there they can tap into?
Wow, that's a really good question. Typically our construction projects, depending on what they are, we're obviously, we have to rebuild roads, we have to replace roads, we have to do construction within the city of Lacrosse. I mean, it's clearly something we have to do. It's not always convenient, and we know that. There's situations where roads get closed, sidewalks get closed, it's definitely not convenient in those types of situations, but it is absolutely necessary. And so I think our goal, or our focus as the city of Lacrosse, is to make sure that we're communicating as much as we possibly can to folks about schedule, about expectations, to make sure that if there are concerns about resources, transportation resources, or access resources, that we're addressing those on the front end. That's something we have to do in terms of planning. That's what our project managers should be doing. We can always improve that process, and I like to think that we're doing that. There's some things that we have, some communication things that we're doing to help improve that process within our engineering department. So hopefully that can help mitigate some of the challenges. But no, I get it. It's rough. We had what was the Main Street project this last year, and even though that got done ahead of time, it closed down the street for people who live there, and it's terrible. I get it. I mean, it's just not, nobody wants to go through that. And yeah, now it's done, and people are driving too fast down the street because it's nice street now.
So this is relating to another question that somebody's asked. I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit here, but it has to do with communication. And the question is, has anyone expressed interest in starting a local newspaper that would develop complete stories about issues and events in our community? And it also reminds me that I thought I had heard that you were also in the process of either filling or creating like a public information communications position. And I was curious as to what the status of that was. So I guess the broader question is, how do we learn more about things that are happening? And is that a role that if you had a communications person that they would be, there'd be different channels for accessing greater information? It's hard as citizens to really get the insights of what's going on, because I think there's a lot for us to be proud of, and
Right.
and a lot that maybe individuals might be willing to contribute to, but it's not always easy getting that communication and the best format for that communication. So
Yeah,
what do you think
no,
about that?
yeah, those are good observations. I think that I don't know about a local newspaper. I will say that. Well, first of all, let me address the communications position. Yes, we did create a communications position within City Hall, and that position will be expected to make sure that we're, first of all, more transparent as a city government, but also communicating more what we're doing at all times to the citizens of the city of Lacrosse and elsewhere, frankly, and also making sure that all of our various departments are working together to get as much information as possible. That's a lot of what that position will be doing. And this is the first ever for the city of Lacrosse. We've never had this position. And this actually is in the most cities within the state of Wisconsin that are our size, larger, smaller. This is seen as an essential role. And we have just kind of never really taken that on. And so I've been one of the critics of the city of Lacrosse, of city government, about the lack of transparency and lack of communication and the difficulty in accessing basic information on our website or wherever it is. And so this communication specialist will hopefully be able to make some significant changes. That's what our desire is. And I believe that's going to happen. Now, in terms of getting better information, one of the things that we have to remember is that not that long ago, and I don't want to be the guy that's blaming social media on everything, but it wasn't that long ago when I started here as a radio reporter in what year was that? 1994. We had a very, very robust newspaper organization in the Lacrosse Tribune, a lot of reporters, and very comprehensively covering the goings on at City Hall and county government and all sorts of things. We had and still had the two big television stations we have here, as well as what was going on at the place that I was working at Midwest Family Broadcasting, and those still exist, but because we have, as a society, have moved our information gathering to many more social media spaces, that they're kind of just not so much the television stations, but to a certain extent they are. But certainly our newspapers are just clinging on a thread, and we've seen what's happened, and they're still providing us some in-depth coverage of certain things that are happening within City Hall, and you got to credit the reporters and the writing that still goes on there. But those are choices that we've made as a society, and we have decided to undervalue the professional journalists that were providing us, asking hard questions and giving us real insight on what is occurring within City Hall. And instead, we decided that we didn't value that, and we wanted the immediate gratification of social media sites. And so I don't know if any of you remember Joan Kent, but Joan Kent was an intrepid reporter at the Lacrosse Tribune who was every Lacrosse mayor's nightmare. But we had, as a community, we had the full story of what was going on in City Hall because of what she was doing as a reporter. She was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary reporter. And she had followed a long string of individuals just like that. So And I could name others, but that was a super impressive individual. So we've made that choice as a society, as a community, with what we value. And I don't want to belabor that, because I don't want to, we've made our choices and we're reaping from that. But that's what has occurred. We have less that we know about the county, the city, the state, how those whatever state agencies, the DNR, whatever. We have less of that because we decided that we valued something else. And so they were not able to pay their bills, frankly. And so they had to go to a different path. So anyway, I don't know if I hope that provides some answers for you, but I haven't frankly heard about a different newspaper or entity of any kind.
Just as a side, I moved here from city of Monona, which is actually surrounded by the city of Madison. And one of the things they did was they started a radio station that has gotten all kinds of awards, because it's all volunteer run, but they do a lot of interviewing of people. And it's just kind of refreshing, like, who listens to the radio anymore? But actually, it was interesting that when they developed that, there seems to be a niche for, like, people are listening. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. We talk about social media and how things have changed, and they kind of went back to old school in a way. It's just interesting.
I listen to radio, just in case you're wondering. I know that's pretty obvious. I mean, as a radio guy, of course I'm listening to radio, but I do listen to radio all the time. That was actually WLSU was my when I first moved here. I was like, oh wow, there's a local public radio station right here, and it's on the UWL campus. That's amazing. And so yeah, I listen to Sandy Harris all the time. But yeah.
Nice. So we're coming on about, a little more than an hour of your time. Sure. I had a question about, and it kind of gets into that communication too, but is there a role, or what role, or how can the League of Women Voters help in partnering and getting more community engagement on different issues? And do you have suggestions for where we might go as an organization? We've started up Observer Course, so I know that we've had members of our league participating in meetings with respect to the comprehensive plan. I think they've moved on to other topics now. We try to do forums. Obviously, we do candidate forums when it comes to elections. But we're also looking at engaging the community in discussions that affect people's lives. And so, and this is like, let's try this. Let's have a fireside chat with the mayor and see how it goes. But do you have suggestions or ideas that we might take to our members as we talk about what kinds of programs we might want to do for next year that you feel would help kind of get at some of the core, bringing communities together, learning more about issues, things like that?
Wow, that's really a great question. I think that so government takes different forms in the state of Wisconsin, as you know. So we have the city government, village government, and town government tends to be town halls. And so there's like the whole community can gather and they'll discuss and I'm so fascinated by that. I don't want that to be how city government operates, but I love the concept of folks just getting together, and this is where I'm going with this. I love the idea of being able to facilitate those conversations, community conversations, in a town hall environment. And it doesn't always work, and sometimes it's the same people showing up. And I don't know how to make that work, but I think that there's anything that we can do to find a way to facilitate more of that, to let, at the very least, let people know that they can have a voice, that it can be something where they can say that out loud, where, and again, I ripped on social media earlier, and I probably shouldn't do as much of that because who knows what will happen to me, but it would be great for folks to not have to feel like they need to be anonymous, to be openly critical about their government, which is what we should be. We should be able to have that opportunity. We should be able to say, I don't like your snow shoveling ordinance. That's too draconian. What's the deal with the alternate side parking? Let's have a conversation about that. How come we still have these issues with inequity within our city? Why are 49%, or whatever the percentage rate is now, why are 49% of our children on free and reduced lunch? What is going on? And why, and how can, and when we start having those conversations and open, people start having conversations, they go back and forth, and they get outside of their echo box, and they get outside of their confirmation bias, and they have to confront each other with differing ideas and concepts. And that's where you start to grow new ideas and come to some sort of solution. And I think there's such a value in that, and we don't do enough of that. I mean, one of the things that, you guys have this incredible situated ethos. You're the League of Women Voters. Like, everybody respects the League of Women Voters, So you have an opportunity to, that's where I think your opportunity is you could put these things together. People are like, oh man, it's the League. They're impartial. They believe in voter access for all. Well, I don't know, maybe some people don't think it's impartial, but at the very least, we'd be able to create some level of conversation, perhaps, that we don't have in this community, that we need more of. We need to get outside of the people that we're comfortable with, and that's obviously one of the problems with social media and again, here I go again, but is that we get stuck in the situation that we're just hearing people that are like us, and all the algorithms are funneling us towards more ideas that are just like our own. I don't want ideas that are like my own. I want ideas that are not like my own, because I don't have good ideas. I steal ideas from everybody else. And that's what we need to do in order to grow as a community, as a society, as a culture. And so if you could find a way to create a pathway for, not this necessarily, because again, I'm just the mayor, but if we could create a situation where you could bring people together, and just, it doesn't have to be 100 people, it could be 20 people. But we have these conversations, we have these community conversations, and it's kind of like a Rotary luncheon, but people are arguing with each other. Something like that. I don't know. I got this, however you want to look at it. It's kind of what I'm thinking of. But that's the kind of thing that I would like. Obviously the candidate forums are great. They really are. And I took part in those as well. And I think that how you operate those is fantastic. But any way that we can facilitate a pathway towards having community conversations, holding feet to the fire of people like me, asking for actual responses from our elected representatives, getting them more engaged in the process, anything like that would be fantastic.
And I understand what you say about social media. I kind of have the same feeling about Zoom meetings, because I think people are so zoomed out. But at the same time, I look at an evening like today, where people don't have to leave their house to be able to engage and listen and learn. And so I have mixed feelings about really wanting to have more interaction with people individually and in what I call in 3D, as opposed to 2D on a computer screen. But there's also opportunities that you can have speakers from different areas come and talk, and you can broaden your audience because you don't have the wasted energy of driving and parking and being out late and that kind of thing. So
so value for sure. Yep, absolutely agree. Yep. So
we've got to find a balance at some point of doing kind of both. But I want to let you know that somebody said I would attend a Rotary luncheon where everybody was arguing. I do have a number of comments, but basically thanking you for your willingness to think outside the box, for your willingness to join us tonight, for the leadership that you've shown already. So I just want you to be aware that those comments have come in our chat box. So I don't know that you can see those, but I wanted you to be aware of that I think that it probably reflects, the folks, who care about our community. So that's a good thing.
That's great. So one of the things that I want to encourage everyone to do is that if there's things that you would like me to address, or the issues that you have with the city, or a direction you'd like to see us go, or complaints about how we're dealing with this or that, snow shoveling, trust me, you could just join in on the folks that don't like how we're dealing with snow shoveling. Anything like that, just contact me. Just get in touch with my office and let me know. And even if you don't want a response, just let me know what it is that you're concerned about, and I will see what I can do to address it. Oh, I actually did just see a chat come up. So I think somebody had a question or something. Was there something about?
Someone wants to know what kind of a rodent that is on your shelf behind your head.
Oh, no, that's a bear. That's a bear. Yeah, no, it's a bear. Sorry, it's a bear. Yeah, just long story there.
Okay.
There are, yeah. It's a bear.
Yeah, all right.
It's not a rodent.
It's not a rodent.
Great question. That one's come. Good stuff. Okay. No, it's not a rodent.
No, okay. So I think that, do you have any other additional closing? I mean, that's the questions that we've had come up. So if you had any closing thoughts you want to have, and then I'll go ahead and just give a closing mention of some upcoming events that we have.
No, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity, and I would love to do this as many times as you would like, but just remember that I don't take the Fireside Chat thing seriously. I'm not FDR, never will be. I'm nothing like, I'm not anywhere close to being at that level. And I recognize that I am, I know who I am, and I'm okay with that. But I do also want to reemphasize that please do contact me if there are issues that you have with the city. I do mean that. I try to be very responsive to anybody who contacts my office. So please feel free to do that at any time. And it may not be the next day or 2 days after or something like that, but I'll try to find answers to your questions. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. Frankly, that's my job. And I like to believe that I'm doing as best as I can to do as good of a job as I can. So please challenge me with whatever question that you have or concern that you have, and I absolutely do mean that. But I do also want to thank the League of Women Voters again for the work that you do. It is such an important job to make sure that we have, first of all, the people are informed about what is occurring within their community, but also to provide that we have equitable access to voting in our society. There's virtually nothing more important for our democracy than to make sure that we have equitable access to voting. And I can't tell you how distressed I am at what is occurring now in our nation to restrict voting or suppress voting. It's devastating. It really is. And I hope that we can find a way forward that does not include preventing people from voting. So that's really all I have. Again, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really do want to extend thanks to you for sharing your time with us. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and being mayor is not a 9-to-5 job, so we respect that. I appreciate really learning a lot more about the challenges facing our community, as well as innovative ideas and hard work that so many are engaged with to make this community thrive, which I think it is doing. And it also makes us proud to call home. So I feel like, I think a lot of the comments you made reflect the fact that that there is much pride in our community, and that's really important for us to have. So I want to point out that, remind folks to check out other community activities that are going on our website, our website calendar in particular. You can visit us at lwvlacrosse.org. And also register for our February 8th Lunch and Learn program. We're going to be talking to 4 individuals, talking about the role of school boards and the important function that school board members play in our school system, and just trying to learn from them what the challenges are and what roles they have in that capacity. So that is February 8th, and go to our website to sign up for that. And so we're in a Zoom event, so I don't have to tell you all to stay warm and to get home safely. So you are home, so be safe, and thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you all soon.
Bye. Thank you all.